Hey there, all you cool cats. Welcome to Shakespeare with Cats. I'm Mr. Level. These are my cats. Today we're going to read Act 4, Scene 2. This is one of my favorite scenes in the play. It's top 3 for sure. The reason to me is that it has a lot of the best lines in the play. We'll see it here in a second. We're actually going to start with Macduff's wife, so Lady Macduff, her son, and Ross. And Lady Macduff asks Ross in the middle of a conversation, apparently, what had he done to make him fly the land? You must have patience, madam. He had none. His flight was madness. When our actions do not, our fears do make us traitors. And here in this one, come here, Smalls. Oh, you're getting so heavy. Here in this one, Lady Macduff is talking about he. Who's he? We always want to get our bearings straight at the beginning of the scene. And in this case, she's talking about he, her husband, Macduff. And Macduff has fled the land. He's fled Scotland, and she's wondering what's behind that. She doesn't really know and understand why he's fled Scotland. And Ross is telling her to be patient. She says that he didn't have any. Macduff had no patience. And she ends up saying that even though his actions didn't make him a traitor, his fears have made him a traitor. He's betrayed her. Ross says, you know not whether it was his wisdom or his fear. Wisdom! To leave his wife, to leave his babes, his mansion, and his titles in a place from whence himself does fly. He loves us not. He wants the natural touch. For the poor wren, the most diminutive of birds, will fight her young ones in the nest against the owl. All is the fear, and nothing is the love, as little is the wisdom, where the flight so runs against all reason. There's a lot here. She challenges the idea. Thanks, Ollie. Oh, no, that's Tank. Yeah, thanks, Tank. She challenges the idea that it was wisdom at all. She says, how could it be wise to leave his wife, his babes, and his mansions from a place from whence himself doth fly? In other words, if he's running away from here, why is he leaving all of us here? That doesn't make any sense. If it's not safe here, thanks for taking us with you. So she concludes that he loves us not, that he wants the natural touch. The natural touch is the natural feelings that a parent would have for his children or for his family, and he wants it. Wants it doesn't mean desires in this, and in fact, most of the time in Old English, if you're reading Charles Dickens, if you're reading Shakespeare, and you see the word wants, it usually means lacks. It means he doesn't have it. So he wants the natural touch, and then she makes a comparison to a bird. For the poor wren will fight her young ones in the nest against the owl. The wren's going to lose that fight, but she'll fight anyway. Okay, that's the natural touch. The bird has it, Macduff doesn't. And then she says, all is the fear, nothing is the love, as little is the wisdom. So his actions are all out of fear, not out of love, not out of wisdom, and his flight runs against reason. It wasn't a reasonable thing to do. Ross says, my dearest coz, I pray you school yourself. But for your husband, he is noble, wise, judicious, and best knows the fits of the season. He's telling her to calm down and to think about it. Don't judge the action that you don't understand. Judge it based on your husband. And what do you know about your husband? He's noble, he's wise, judicious, all of these things. And he best knows the fits of the season. The fits of the season would be like the turbulence of the times and what's going on politically in Scotland. He should know what's going on, so he must be doing something wisely here. I dare not speak much further, but cruel are the times when we are traitors and do not know ourselves. When we hold rumor from what we fear, yet know not what we fear, but float upon a wild and violent sea each way and move. Okay, here he's actually showing pity for Macduff in the situation, because it's a cruel time when we are traitors, we are called traitors, like Lady Macduff just called Macduff a traitor, and we don't even know it ourselves. Macduff can't defend himself here, and to Ross, that seems like a cruel thing. I take my leave of you. Shall not be long, but I'll be here again. Things at the worst will cease, or else climb upward to what they were before. My pretty cousin, blessing upon you. So he said he's leaving, and he's telling her that, and he says that he kind of leaves her this optimistic phrase that things at the worst will cease, or they'll climb upward. So the worst that could happen was that bad things will just stop, or they'll climb upward, because things couldn't really get any worse than they are right now in Scotland. And when he says, my pretty cousin, blessing upon you, he shifts. Notice the dash there means he shifts to whom he's speaking. He's speaking to Lady Macduff's son. And Lady Macduff, referring to the son, says, "Fathered he is, and yet he's fatherless. I am so much a fool. Should I stay longer, it would be my disgrace and your discomfort. I take my leave at once." Again, Ross is showing pity for Macbeth here. He feels bad for the man because Lady Macduff just said that her son has a father, he's fathered, and yet he's fatherless. Okay, that he no longer is a father to his son. And Ross is suggesting that something, if he stays longer, it would be his disgrace and her discomfort. Usually students think that means he's flirting with her or hitting on her. He's not going to do that. He's about to start crying. That's how he feels. He's about to start crying, and that's going to be awkward for everyone. So he exits. Lady Macduff turns to her son and says, "Sirrah, your father's dead. And what will you do now? How will you live?" Now remember, Sirrah is just a social inferior. It's like saying sir, but to someone who's technically beneath you. It's not an insult. "How will you live?" "As birds do, mother." "What, with worms and flies?" "With what I get, I mean, and so do they." So how is he going to live like birds? By getting what he can, not technically with worms and flies. "Poor bird, thou wouldst never fear the net nor lime, the pitfall nor the gin." That list there, what is she suggesting? You probably recognize one of them, the net. These are all traps laid for birds, ways that birds might get caught. And she says, "You poor bird, you would never fear the traps that would be set for you." "Why should I, mother? Poor birds, they are not set for." Kind of clever point the boy makes. People don't set traps for small birds. They set traps for big birds. Not Sesame Street, Big Bird. "My father is not dead, for all you're saying." "Yes, he is dead. How wilt thou do for a father?" "Nay, how will you do for a husband?" "Oh my," from the little boy. "Why, I can buy me 20 at any market." Ooh, did she just? "Then you'll buy him to sell him again." Oh, yeah, it's one of those moments. He's suggesting that if she goes and gets another husband, that she'll just sell him off again the way she's selling off Macduff here in this situation. And Lady Macduff has had enough of this from her son. She says, "Thou speakest with all thy wit, and yet, in faith, with wit enough for thee." In other words, she's admiring how much wit he has in the way he's speaking with her, but that's enough wit from thee. Like, you can stop that right there, little boy. "Was my father a traitor, mother?" "Aye, that he was." "What is a traitor?" "Why, one that swears and lies." "And be all traitors that do so?" "Every one that does so is a traitor and must be hanged." "And must they all be hanged that swear and lie?" "Every one." "Who must hang them?" "Why, the honest men." "Then the liars and swearers are fools, for there are liars and swearers enough to beat the honest men and hang up them." One of my favorite lines here, he just said it, really delivers the punch when you think about what he's suggesting is that if all of these if anyone who swears and lies is a traitor, and they're to be hanged by the honest men, he points out that there's not enough honest men to hang all these men, that there's so few honest men in the world, that why would the liars and swearers allow themselves, the majority, to be hung up by the minority? That would be foolish. It's quite a comment on us, just like the porter's comment that there was lots of turning the key to the gates of hell to let so many different people come in. Lady Macduff says, "Now God help thee, poor monkey. But how wilt thou do for a father?" "If he were dead, you'd weep for him. If you would not, it were a good sign that I should quickly have a new father." In other words, well, if he was dead, you'd be crying, but if you're not, then you're probably just going to marry someone else soon and have a new dad, so no biggie. "Poor prattler, how thou talkest." Enter a messenger. "Bless you, fair dame. I am not to you known, though in your state of honor I am perfect." That means that I know exactly who you are. I know your state of honor, but you don't know who I am. "I doubt some danger does approach you nearly." Now this one's tricky because doubt means fear here. So he actually fears that some danger is coming. He's not doubting that the fear is coming. He's fearing that the danger does come pretty soon. "If you will take a homely man's advice, be not found here. Hence with your little ones. To fright you thus, methinks I am too savage. To do worse to you were fell cruelty, which is too nigh your person." He's kind of worried that, oh my gosh, I'm frightening you. You look scared. And he feels like a savage for doing that to her. But he says that to do worse would be fell cruelty. What would be worse than frightening her? not saying anything and not frightening her. So he says that that would be cruelty, which is too nigh or too near you as it is already. Heaven preserve you. I dare abide no longer. And the messenger hurriedly exits. Lady Macduff wonders, whither should I fly? Whither means why. Why should I fly? Why should I run away? I have done no harm. But I remember now I am in this earthly world, where to do harm is often laudable, to do good sometime accounted dangerous folly. Why then, alas, do I put up that womanly defense to say I have done no harm? This is one of my favorite lines again. Her first reaction is to say, why should I run away? I haven't done any harm. I haven't hurt anyone. But then she remembers something. She says, I remember now I'm in this earthly world where to do harm is often laudable. Remember that laudable means applaudable. And so those who do harm actually gain, that they are applauded in our world. And that those who do good sometimes is accounted dangerous folly. A folly is a mistake, an error. It's a dangerous mistake to be on the good side. We might be able to think of a few characters that prove that theme to us in this play. And she remembers that that's the world we live in, where fair and foul are sometimes intertwined. And then she asks herself this, why then do I put up that womanly defense to say I have done no harm? She calls it a womanly defense, almost like suggesting that there's something weak about this defense that's not going to hold up in this man's world. But she realizes that this idea that she's done no harm, therefore no harm will come to her, is just bogus. Enter the murderers. What are these faces? And the murderer says to her, where is your husband? I hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayest find him. He is a traitor. The son says, thou liest, thou shag-eared villain. What, you egg? He stabs him. Young fry of treachery. I know that line is usually kind of funny sounding. When we read it in class, it always brings out laughter. Because the murderer calls him an egg. That's a pretty lame insult. But if you think about it, he's saying you're an egg, you're young, you're little, you're not a full hatched or grown chicken yet. You're a young one, you're an egg. That's what he's saying. But the son stands there and stands up for his father when the murderer says he's a traitor. And then the murderer stabs the son there on stage and he calls him a young fry of treachery. The son says, he has killed me, mother. Run away, I pray you. Again, sometimes people laugh in class because they're like, he's standing there like, and he's like, he has killed me. It sounds silly that he's saying that. But in the play or in the movie, it would never be portrayed in a very humorous way. Lady Macduff exits crying murder, followed by the murderers bearing the son's body. Lady Macduff's exit while she's crying murder is never portrayed in a way that makes it look like she's getting away. It's more like the rest of the killing is about to happen off stage, and this is just a convenient way to clear the stage for the next scene to begin. Going back to Lady Macduff's lines, you notice that she's been trashing on Macduff all scene long. And then the murderer asks, where is your husband? And she says, I hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayest find him. In other words, I hope not in any place so horrible that someone like you would find him. She stands up for her husband here. She actually does think highly of him still. She was maybe a bit mad, but she ultimately still loves him. And that's the end of the scene. It's a tragic scene. It's really a scene that is great in performance. It's great on film, and I hope you check out some of the versions we have available.